The smoke never stops. Day and night, Berlin burns under a sky that hasn't been blue in weeks. It's April 1945, and the city that called itself the heart of the thousand-year Reich has maybe 2 weeks left. In this AI reconstruction, we're bringing the final days of Berlin to life. The Red Army is 40 miles from Berlin. You can hear the artillery now, a constant low rumble from the east that gets louder every day. Inside the city, the Nazi leadership is still pretending this can be stopped. Years of Allied bombing have left entire neighborhoods as nothing but rubble fields and hollow building facades. But it's the exposed lives that hit you hardest. An apartment building sheared in half by a bomb, and you can still see the wallpaper in what used to be someone's bedroom. Family portraits hanging crooked above craters where floors used to be. These aren't ruins yet. People still live here, in the basements, in the rooms that haven't collapsed. April 16th. The Soviet offensive begins. Marshal Zhukov commands over 2.5 million men on the Oder River, just 35 miles east of Berlin. The bombardment is apocalyptic. Soviet artillery fires over 1.2 million shells in the first hours. The sound can be heard in Berlin. Windows rattle. The ground shakes. The civilians know what's coming. So does Hitler, sitting in his bunker beneath the Reich Chancellery. By April 20th, Hitler's 56th birthday, Soviet shells are landing in Berlin's eastern suburbs. The city that hosted the 1936 Olympics, that marched through Europe in triumph just 5 years ago, is now a fortress waiting to die. The Wehrmacht has no reserves left. The soldiers defending Berlin are a mix of exhausted veterans, teenage boys from the Hitler Youth, and old men from the Volkssturm, the People's Militia. Some of these men are in their 60s, given rifles and told to stop T-34 tanks. Nearby, a woman tries to fill buckets from a broken water main, hoping the shelling stops long enough to get home. Above them, smoke from countless fires merges into a chemical haze that burns your throat and turns day into permanent twilight. This is the Gotterdämmerung, the twilight of the gods, the end of the world the Nazis built. April 21st. The first Soviet units reach Berlin's city limits. The battle begins in earnest. The Red Army doesn't fight the way the Wehrmacht expected. They learned hard lessons at Stalingrad and Kursk. Now they use artillery to blast buildings into rubble, then send in infantry and tanks to clear what's left. Room by room, street by street, Berlin is consumed. The Brandenburg Gate, the symbol of Prussian military might, stands surrounded by wreckage. Unter den Linden, the grand boulevard that once hosted victory parades, is now a killing ground. Soviet T-34 tanks rumble past shattered buildings, while German snipers fire from upper floors. An 88mm anti-aircraft gun has been dragged into position near the Reichstag, its crew knowing they have no way out, no retreat, no chance. They fire anyway. Inside the Führer bunker, Hitler is detached from reality. He moves phantom armies on maps, issuing orders to divisions that no longer exist. His hands shake. His uniform hangs loose. The man who wanted to remake Europe in his image is now trapped in a concrete tomb, waiting for relief forces that will never come. Above him, his capital is being torn apart. The civilians are caught in between. 3 million people still live in Berlin, most of them women, children, and the elderly. The men are dead, captured, or fighting. The survivors hide in cellars and subway tunnels turned into makeshift shelters. The U-Bahn stations are packed with thousands of people living underground, surrounded by the smell of unwashed bodies, fear, and chemical smoke that seeps in from the streets above. April 25th. Soviet forces complete the encirclement. Berlin is cut off. No supplies coming in, no escape possible. The city is now an island, and the Red Army is flooding in from every direction. The Reichstag, the parliament building that burned in 1933 and became a symbol of Nazi power, is now the target. Capturing it will mean victory. Soviet commanders know this, so do the German defenders. The Tiergarten, Berlin's central park, is unrecognizable. The trees are splintered stumps. The ground is cratered. Anti-aircraft towers built of reinforced concrete, massive structures that were supposed to protect the city, are now fortresses where the last defenders make their stands. Soviet artillery pounds them day and night. The noise is constant, mind-breaking. Survivors will talk about the sound for the rest of their lives. The screaming of Katyusha rockets, the crash of buildings collapsing, the crack of rifle fire echoing through empty streets. April 28th. Soviet troops are fighting block by block through the government district. They're 300 yards from the Reich chancellery. In the bunker below, Hitler marries Eva Braun. The ceremony is surreal. Classical music plays on a gramophone. There's champagne from dwindling supplies. Outside, the 1,000-year Reich is dying in fire and blood. And inside, Hitler is going through the motions of normal life, as if nothing is happening. April 30th, 3:30 p.m. Hitler and Eva Braun retreat to their private room in the bunker. She takes cyanide. He shoots himself. The sound of the gunshot is barely audible over the artillery bombardment above. The man who plunged Europe into its bloodiest war is dead, surrounded by concrete walls, never seeing the destruction he caused. His body is carried up to the Chancellery garden, doused in gasoline and burned. The smoke rises to join the chemical haze hanging over Berlin. But the battle doesn't stop. Many German units don't even know Hitler is dead. They keep fighting because surrender feels impossible, because they're terrified of what Soviet revenge will look like, because orders are orders. The killing continues. May 1st, Soviet soldiers fight their way into the Reichstag. It's been fortified, turned into a fortress, with machine gun positions and barricades on every floor. The fighting is savage. Room to room, floor to floor, grenade and bullet. Finally, Soviet troops reach the roof. They plant the red banner on the dome as the sun sets. Below them, Berlin is a sea of smoke and rubble. The photographers capture the moment. It will become one of the most famous images of the war. May 2nd, dawn. General Helmuth Weidling, the commandant of Berlin, surrenders the city. The announcement goes out over loudspeakers in German and Russian. Cease fire. The battle for Berlin is over. Slowly, the shooting stops. The silence feels wrong, unnatural after 2 weeks of constant noise. Soviet soldiers walk through streets choked with rubble. They pass German soldiers emerging from cellars with their hands up, exhausted, filthy, defeated. They pass civilians who stare with hollow eyes. An old woman sits on the steps of a ruined building, holding a photograph. The Brandenburg Gate still stands, somehow, surrounded by devastation. Soviet tanks park beneath it. Soldiers pose for photographs. The Reich, that was supposed to last 1,000 years, lasted 12. It ended here, in smoke and rubble and chemical haze, in exposed apartments and broken lives. In the contrast between what Berlin wanted to be and what it became, the numbers are staggering. Over 80,000 Soviet soldiers were killed taking Berlin. German military casualties are estimated at 100,000 dead. Civilian deaths, at least 125,000, possibly more. The exact number will never be known. Whole families disappeared in the bombing and the fighting. The survivors will spend years searching through rubble for bodies. Berlin in May 1945 is the physical manifestation of total defeat, a city reduced to rubble, a monument to what happens when empires built on violence finally fall. This is as close as we can get to showing what those final days actually looked like. This was Berlin 1945. The last days of the Reich, the Gotterdämmerung,